Hey, all right, welcome. Another Lion Share video. Um, I'm pretty, what's it called? Momentum is building. And so I'm getting pretty excited as we're stringing the chapters together, doing these little deep dives. And this never would have been possible. And I think this is intentional, what I'm about to say. This never would have been possible without reading the book a couple times through and working on the other puzzles. So the way in my mind it's going, at least for me, is you have to read the book. And JCB has said this if you look at his earliest interviews, he always asks the interviewer, have you read the book? Especially when they ask him a question. So you have to read the book a couple times, 1, 2, 3. And then before I think you can even like dive down in each chapter and get the nuggets, the clues from there, I think you have to work on at least one, preferably in my case all, but at least one of the little boxes, the 4 boxes. Because when you're reading the book, so here's how I would recommend doing it. Read the book like a book, right? Then read it like a treasure hunt. Then pick one of the box that calls out to you and work on that chapter. And then if you have the time or the desire, I'd work on the other boxes. If not, now go back to the beginning of the book and treat each chapter of part 1 like its own mini chapter in part 2, if that makes sense. And I think, again, it's layered, it's structured, it's intentional, the same way that the part 2 chapters seem to have different layers in them. I think that we're going to find the same case for each of chapter 1, and I think you unlock it. And again, so he mentions that different people's brains are wired differently. I think some people can do this on a first read, and they were the ones who, like a week or two in the Discord, are putting out these theories of stuff they're seeing, and everyone's like, "You're crazy! I'm not seeing that," and they didn't get much traction. And then a month later, when I've caught up, and most of and other people have caught up to them, now we're like, "Oh, now I see what they were saying." It's just because my brain wasn't able to process it like theirs was. So I think that's just a little tidbit. If I haven't said it already, the subject for this video is going to be chapter 6. Chapter 6, again, we're still focusing on the lion's share. We're still focusing on the big box and looking at keys, clues, threads, hints, and each one of those is significant. I think, well, I don't want to go to that now. Okay. All right, so let's get into chapter 6 before I get sidetracked, all right? Let's go right into chapter 6. Okay, so we just finished up the Art Smith and in his art. And if we're thinking of what we're looking for this chapter, we're still looking at a roadmap. Our roadmap might be ending because now we're in 6, so we're like a quarter of the way through, right? 6 is a quarter of the way through 24. So maybe we're not looking for basic instructions anymore, but we're looking on building off of the instructions we received. All right, so we've had the mirror double is kind of like something to look out for. So far we have in the first 4 or 5 chapters, we have a lot of things to look out for, not necessarily a lot of things that we looked out for and found, if that makes sense. Look out for doubles, look out for mirrors, look out for strong color themes, particularly blue. However, green was introduced in chapter 4. Look out for stories, which early on there seemed to be some good ones. Now, not so much, but keep that in the back of your head. Still focusing on details. Look out for details in words and in phrases, and photographs. If I say that already, photographs that don't really belong to the chapter. All right. And quotes. Quotes was a new one that just got introduced in chapter 5, which chapter 6 does have more quotes. And he even explains the significance of them. Okay. So again, starts out with an introduction, a tie-in with himself. This is one of the better segues in my opinion. The chapter 5, the chapter 6, I think is one of the smoother segues. The tie-ins of faith and hope to inspiration. I think it's pretty clear, pretty clean. Okay, so it talks about he talks about himself, about rubies, which is a little bit of I don't know. For me at first, it was a little bit of maybe the color blue isn't as important because He spent a couple chapters on blue and then went into green, and now we're in red. So maybe it's just a color thing. Which blue, green, red they're not the primary colors for like paint. Those are blue, red, yellow. But blue, green, red are the primaries for print, if I believe. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I thought there was two sets of primaries. Like for pigments and painting, like behind you, the primary colors that you can get all the other colors from are blue, red, and yellow. I'm pretty sure I remember that from my one art class I took in high school. But I think blue, green, and red are primaries for either visual or for TVs, something like that. Okay, so here we go. Red, Burma. Little bit of history, right? We always appreciate the history tie-ins. Thailand's another Southeast Asian. We just talked about, Cambodia. Go into Hindu. Pigeon's blood, which is in italics, but not capitalized. Again, the photos that have been mentioned, the first one are the big necklace. Again, page 65. With that's tie-in, and it has a description. It's actually referenced twice, so 2 is double. So page 65 talks about, there's a caption and opposite page caption. But then if you go to page 67, halfway through, I want to thank Lauren for designing our ruby pendant. Page 64, I think it's magnificent. So again, this could just be his genuine appreciation for the person and the artist that Lauren is, that he wanted to specifically call her out, give her a shout out, give her attention, which is valid because he does the same thing with Seth. He plugs Seth's Instagram in his own book. So, that's kind of a good friend move, a good bro move. So this is, him plugging her charities and her again by referencing her art twice, the specific pendant, which is funny because in Art Smith's, I'm saying the word art a lot, in Art Smith's chapter, that picture with the dancers is not referenced even once. And here we have a pendant that's referenced twice. Continue down to 68, we have 2 quotes that are actually in the book in text right here. And again, it's another doubles, because if you look back to chapter 5, and it's short enough that I'll show it to you. Right, so there's 2 quotes. There's one at the bottom down here, Thomas Aquinas, and then there's one right here, 60. So it's there's the pairs, right? They're 2s, but it's spaced out a little bit, so maybe it's not as obvious. Maybe that's why it was hidden. Here's one of the more coolest. A neat thing that I picked up on was at the end of 69, which is he's summarizing, he's bringing it to a close, he's about to transition in a couple paragraphs. He talks about inspiration. So we're looking at, here we go. Starts with, will you need? 1, 2, 3, third paragraph from the bottom. Again, will, call back to Will Occam, Straight Edge, Will Straight Edge, Occam's Razor. Will you need inspiration to find the treasure boxes I've hidden? I'm always keyed into whenever he references the treasure box and goes from the past to the future, as it were. And this is not a call out to the past and future box. I'm talking about his writing style where he's telling stories, he's referencing the past, and then he'll zoom forward to like the future when somebody is finding the box. That's the point I'm talking about, the undetermined future, right? So he talks about the past, then he zooms forward to when we find the box. Will you need inspiration to find the treasure boxes I've hidden? I imagine you might. All right. I think it was Hemingway that was famous for doing this, writing in short sentences. It's a very impactful and strong writing style. I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but it definitely, when you write in short sentences like that, I think it emphasizes the point. I imagine you might. If you ever feel discouraged while searching, so that's all of us, right? That's part of the hunt. If you ever feel discouraged while searching, remember you can aspire for a little help. That's particular words right there. In my opinion, if one of you guys is a writer and that seems common, then let me know. But the way I read that, which again, I'm looking for details in words. not so much in the images. I imagine you might, if you ever feel discouraged while searching, remember you can aspire for a little help. I know what the word aspire means, but it's just weird to me in that sense. Call to it. Here we go. A three-worded sentence, very, very strong. Call to it. And I want to stop right there, because as soon as I read that, because we're doing this chapter by chapter deep dive, which I think is, when you do that, you'll start noticing other things. Let's go back to 63. All right. We're looking at second to last paragraph. Talks about if there exists a first cousin to faith in my life. And we're going to go down to the sentence that starts with when we are. When we are, it's an advocate, eager to give a helping hand. All right. So what is eager to give a helping hand? Inspiration, right? Like faith, inspiration requires you and me to be open and available to it. When we are, it's an advocate, eager to give. So inspiration is what gives the helping hand. Now we go to 69. And if you ever feel discouraged while searching, remember you can aspire for a little help. Call to it. Who are we calling to? What are we calling for help? What gives the helping hand? Inspiration. And that brings us back to the beginning of the sentence. Will you need inspiration to find the treasure boxes? I imagine you might. Another thing, while we're on inspiration, which is, so people have talked about, he beats us over the head with joy. He beats us over the head with confirmation bias. Bro, I'm feeling beat over the head with inspiration right now. And not like in the good way where like I'm getting inspiration. Let's go to 68. So let me, I don't know. This one is borderline. That's why I didn't lead with it. So a sentence that starts with a little inspiration. Page 68, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down. It's the beginning of a new paragraph, a new thought. A little inspiration guided me to Angie and Lauren. So when I first read that, I'm thinking he's going to tell us what the inspiration is. Like, a little inspiration led me to start working out. It was when I caught a side profile of myself in the mirror and my gut. Like, that's a little bit personal for me, but that's how I'm thinking about it. A little inspiration guided me to this. And so I'm waiting for what that inspiration is. But I don't see it. He just goes on to, as I've mentioned, this hunt was born from one inspired moment. What is that moment, right? So here I keep getting caught up in little rabbit trails. So let's follow the first thought. We're looking for his little inspiration. A little inspiration guided me to Angie and Lauren. As I mentioned, born from one inspired moment. We'll go back to that. We'll go back to that in a second. Whenever inspiration speaks, try my best to listen. Inspiration doesn't mince words. This is not new. I've been seeking out inspiration. We couldn't afford to. So then, like, I'm still waiting for what the inspiration is that guided him to Angie and Lauren. But now he's going into childhood. He's going into why quotes are important to him. So this might be a point in the tally of, hey, maybe the quotes aren't significant for treasure for us. Quotes are significant to him because he was poor growing up, couldn't afford posters, so he put quotes on the wall. And so quotes just speak to him. That's how he gets inspiration. Heroes, comic books, and it goes on and goes on. And then it goes, it doesn't go back to the little inspiration. So if we go to the beginning of the chapter, the only thing I could see that could be, and let me know what you think, little inspiration would be the ad. Here we go. So I've learned that when I need help, simply asking for inspiration can often be the best solution. So I aspired for some inspiration. So again, there he uses the word aspire again in direct relation to inspiration. So maybe it's not so weird. It's just a theme, a pattern, or how he writes. So I aspired for some inspiration to give me a sign what to do next. 2 days later, an ad popped up showcasing, I rarely click on ads, so I clicked, caught my attention. Okay, so is that, which it could be, is that the little inspiration? So a little inspiration guided me. So all he's doing is saying, hey, remember a couple paragraphs before when I talked about I needed help, I aspired for inspirations, and the ad came, and so that's inspiration. So if that's the case, then there's no big mystery. We can cross that out, conditions are met, and move on. Yeah, I'm moving on right now in the video, but it's still tickling the back of my head, maybe because of the word aspire. Anyways, let's go back to that same paragraph. A little inspiration guided me, which now we're saying is the ad. As I've mentioned before, this entire treasure hunt and book were born from one inspired moment. What is that moment? What is, if you were to ask JCB, what was the moment of inspiration that led you to this hunt? What would his answer be? And I think if we go back to the introduction, page, we're looking at 8, or are we looking at page 9? Specifically chose values, treasure hunt for the, okay, so a little bit on the bottom of page 10, because if you're reading the book and he tells you to read the book, and he mentions, as I've said before, a little inspiration led me to create this hunt, you would think to go back, not forward. So if we go back from chapter 6 and look for something in the previous chapters that, and maybe I'm missing it, because there's like a lot going on. Let's see if we can find it. Entire project, 5 years, we're on page 11. Okay, here we go. The genesis, of this project arrived in a flash. But it doesn't say what it is. Certainly my initial basic acquired treasure. A lot of simple. No, I'm not seeing, I'm not really seeing it in the past. So if we can't find it in the back, let's go forward, which where I want to go is the Forest Fen box. Here we go. Mentioned for Ben, what about Treasure Hunter? Here we go, Daydreaming. Page 205. Shipwrecks, Forest Fen, waste no time dove in, questions, had to finish work, concluded, done. Page 206. Conjecture, happy. Page 207. Then I thought I found it somewhere, but I'm not seeing the moment of inspiration that's now described twice as a flash, right? Moment of inspiration led to the hunt. Now, and I'm getting kind of excited now that I'm thinking about it, because my notes didn't go this far. I'm trying to calm myself down, because what if that's a big nugget, is finding in text a sentence or two that describes his moment, and maybe you're shouting it out on the screen, like, maybe I should have done this live so you could help me out here. But I thought it was in the Forest Fen chapter, but he talks about, wanting to be a treasure hunter, Googling about treasure, learning about Forest Fen and the gold, talks about diving into it, have spent for years, Rocky Mountains, sage, blooming wildflowers, which sage is an interesting tie-in to dreams of the Forest Fen, and my solve, or other people's solves too, but we'll go to that later. His child was born, first child, Forest Fen, so then it's found. Then it goes to the auction. I acquired his olive jar, open the jar. Then it goes into Seth. Yeah, it doesn't say the inspiration right there, which I thought it did. And I don't want to spend too much time just flipping through the book here, but that will be something, because I thought if you were to say, hey Esteban, what's the where in the book does it describe his inspiration for starting this hunt? In my head I can like almost visualize it, like, oh, I know it's here. But I'm not going to get caught up in that right now. That'll be something to do off camera. But again, so that's something interesting to dive into. If you're having trouble following me, we were looking for his moment of inspiration for starting this hunt. Not about treasures to put on there, not about where to put it, but the actual moment of inspiration where he got the idea to do this treasure hunt. And the closest thing I can find is in the introduction, where he talks about page 11. The genesis of this project arrived in a flash, and it landed somewhat jarringly. Hot like a jar, olive jar. The idea of riding like a wild cowboy and lightning bolt of inspiration. Cowboy. I should go hide a treasure. So I guess maybe that's it. Maybe I missed it when I skimmed over it. What do you think? Is this the moment of inspiration, or is this the description of the moment of inspiration that he's referring to? I'll read it all together. My initial realization was fairly basic. I should go hide a treasure. But if something can be simple and incredibly complex at the same time, this is that thing, yada, 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 it goes on. So is that it? Is that reference, is that a couple sentences in chapter 11, what he was referencing in page 68? 68. As I mentioned before, this entire treasure hunt and book were born from one inspired moment. So is that it? So if that's the case, then so far 2 of my big ideas for this chapter have just been check, followed up on, which is we can use the pattern of how he references, how he self-references, and how he references other things in the book. And so far, both references have been backwards, not forward, because we didn't really find anything in the Force Fen chapter that was about the genesis of it. Okay, so moving on with the other topic I want to talk about was about church. Top of page 69. I never quite found inspiration in our traditional white Protestant church services. All right, so again, he's not really saying he's jaded with faith or with church. He's talking about the actual white Protestant church services. However, when my dad began trading pulpits with local black ministers, that changed for me. Talks about his experience with a black Baptist church down the street. Rousing cadence, voice, liveliness of words, countless amens. Things got his blood pumping, pigeon's blood. A couple references to blood there. Is there anything in there? Who knows? Then when they combined their service, quickly discovered that black church is a lot more fun. Music, dancing, and praise. For the first time, a church service inspired me. I wouldn't really go too much into that, only because it's only mentioned once, and there seems to be a pattern of, if something's important, he'll let you know by referencing it once, 2 or 3 times. So I'm looking for stuff that's been referenced more than 1, preferably more than 2. I think if something is a one-off, unless it's really clever or really, I don't know how to say that. I wanted to say, I was about to say, unless it's really visible, but then that would kind of defeat the purpose of having a one-off clue that was really visible. I don't know. But I'm looking for themes, patterns, and stuff that's, I'm looking for repetition, all right? So as I've grown older, I found inspiration. This is important to me. I think I found inspiration in fatherhood, music, and writing, okay? And then he goes into, I've been inspired by travel, adventures, nature, and writing children's books. But I want to focus on the big 3. Again, 3, Trinity, 3 things, over and over again in the book. Fatherhood, music, and writing. So let's stop there for a second. Fatherhood. How many times has he referenced his children, either directly or indirectly, in the first couple chapters? There have been a few. He's very respectful of their privacy, never, throwing out, too many details about them, but just enough to let you know that they're very important. He starts out this whole book, which I think is awesome as him being a dad. This is a pretty awesome legacy to leave for when his child grows up, learns about this, hopefully successful hunt where 5 boxes were found by Froggy. He learns about it, and when he flips open the book, the first chapter mentions him, right, as a son, right? If the son's reading this, the very first chapter mentions him. And his son is also referenced a couple other times throughout the book. I think the only really descriptive detail is the blue eyes, which is why blue in my mind was a key indicator. But so far, we haven't found much more than like 2 or 3 references in the first few books. Although the Blue Lotus, I'm still really leaning heavily on the Blue Lotus. So fatherhood, right? And then he even talks about him altering his plans for seeking treasure due to fatherhood. Talks about him altering plans for staying in Japan due to fatherhood. So he seems like a good dad, right? He's being unselfish. He's putting his personal dreams on hold to raise a family, to be a present father. So I think there's some big themes we could find there. So fatherhood, music. Here's an interesting one. Music. I haven't really seen too much about music as far as puzzles. Yeah, mentions, some music in the Pokemon box, Coltrane, all that, jazz. The story about, the hotel, but as far as in the part 1 chapters, we're up to chapter 6. Hasn't been that much about music. And as far as puzzles in the part 2 boxes, yeah, there was the Coltrane cipher or whatever, but I haven't really seen too many musical influences on the chapters, which is something we may be missing. I mean, my own 4 personal solves that I have don't really rely on music too much, which causes me to worry. I think the one that I'm closest to redoing is the Pokemon box. I mentioned that briefly at the end of the last video. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I don't like that I'm way in Southern Illinois, outside St. Louis. Just seems wild to me. But again, that was my own confirmation bias that it was a very oval shape from Statesville to Houston. All right, we're getting sidetracked. Lock in, chapter 6. We read it. We've been talking about it for 25 minutes. What is the point? What have we taken? So I think it's we've been looking for themes and threads, and here's one of the first times that he gives it to us. Fatherhood, music, writing, right? Fatherhood, look in the book where he mentions fatherhood specifically, being a father, being a dad, or references his children. Fatherhood is different from the husband-wife relationship, obviously, and so I do think that while he has great love for his wife, there's joy there. I don't know if I'm ranking that as high as references in the book to his wife versus references in the book toward his son. That's just me personally, how I'm looking at it for right now. Now, in a couple other chapters, when we're doing our deep dives, we may find a whole bunch of other stuff, and that will cause me to reevaluate. But for right now, because we're trying to do this in order, right? I'm trying not to let, although I did kind of get carried away with the Fen box, but I'm not trying to let stuff I know or remember or think I know from later in the book affect me as we're going through this step by step, chapter by chapter, very intentional deep dive. Okay, so fatherhood, music, and writing. And what aspects of writing are we really looking for? Details. That's how I'm looking at it. Looking for details, looking for phrases, be on a pistol, looking for, I was big on Aspire. I'm not really, I'll kind of let that slide for now. Looking at other AI can give a suggestion or 3. So looking at different phrases that stick out, words that seem to be misused or misplaced, which I haven't really found any words that are like, oh, he used the wrong word here. I haven't found that yet, but there's words that they have a traditional common meaning and they have a secondary meaning, and he uses them with the secondary meaning. So I think that's significant. So those are 3 things that I'm looking for. And with that, I think I'm going to close our roadmap section. I think that was the first couple chapters are teasing you, hey, here's what to look for, here are the themes, here are the threads to look for, and they're buried and they're hidden. Now he just flat out says, fatherhood, writing, and music. Like, if you haven't gotten it by now, fatherhood, writing, music, look out for those in the next coming chapters. So I'm excited to get into chapter 7. Hopefully we'll do that in the next couple days. Chapter 7, we're going to really look for those main 3 themes in addition to colors, specifically blue. Although he kind of attaches meanings for the different colors, right? So blue, and I love this quote, not enough to memorize it, obviously, but blue is leading you to uncovered secrets. I butchered that. Let me say it right here. So blue lotus indicates that knowledge and wisdom have conjoined to prepare a path to enlightenment where secrets are revealed. So let me break that down in plain English for you. When you see blue, the knowledge in the book and your own wisdom, or wisdom that you've gained while reading this book, will work together and will show you where the secrets are revealed, where the clues are. All right, so that's something, I think. When you see blue in the book, that's a spot where knowledge from the book that he said and wisdom, your own wisdom, will work together and will show you, will reveal the clue. All right. And so since we've got 2 new colors, let's go ahead and do something for them real quick. Because he tells you, when he introduces a color, he tells you what it means. All right. So emerald is green. Emerald. Emeralds are rare gemstone found where 2 tectonic plates crushed together. So again, 2, right? Pairs. Wisdom and knowledge for the blue. For emeralds, it's where two plates crush each other. So because we're talking about geography and a physical thing, where blue was a mental thing, right? A concept, wisdom, and knowledge. But green is a physical thing. So here's what I would do. Here's what the notes I have for green is I put down. So when you see blue in the book, that's where you have to do some mental work. When you see green on the book, green is a physical junction in the book. So not for the first introduction, not in chapters 4, but when we see green in the future, look for what's physically on the book, and those will be your two mountains or your two tectonic plates that crush together to make a magical offspring, in his own words, page 52. And so that brings us to red. So what are we doing? What are we looking for when we see red? Red is the indistinguishable flame of immortality. And rubies make you invincible. They cut open their skin and insert rubies underneath their flesh. How do we use that to find treasure? Rubies are considered the king of all gemstones. All right. Some what's the word? Planetary relations here with the ruby and the sun. We're on page 66. But here we go. Influence the cycle of immortality by inspiring a better station. Rubies are scarce or in high demand. I don't know. I didn't. It's new to me, this whole thread. So when you see blue, you're supposed to do something. When you see green, you do something. When you see red, you do something too. I don't know about the red one. I've got something for blue and for green. But I got sidetracked again. I was listening to what we're looking for going forward. Okay, so the big three themes. Say it with me. We've got fatherhood. We've got music and writing. Now we've got the colors. When we see a color, we do a certain thing. And look for the pictures that don't match. Look for mirror images. Look for the details in the writing. Again, a callback toward writing. And we're still looking for stories and stories. I think that's a solid roadmap. I feel good. We're a quarter of the way through. We've got 18 more chapters to go through, and we have a solid list of what to look out for. We've got our roadmap. All right. That's what I'm working off of now. We'll see if it leads anywhere. We're getting to the good stuff now. Is there anything else I want to cover in this video? Still working on Pokemon Box, possibly being in Southern Illinois, St. Louis outside. What got me there, one was the massive circle that I'm doing now. I've moved away, not completely, but I still have, my number one solve is still Arkansas, still BNR. But people are drilling that place, they're grinding it out, they're grid searching. So I want to have a spot prepared for in another few months if people are like, hey man, we grid searched the heck out of that thing, there's nothing there. Well, what about here? And here's why. So what led me out there is I searched the southern route. The geography just doesn't match for me. It's too dangerous. I don't really see a good spot for a concerned father who's a pastor, makes good decisions. Throwing a camper out, I don't see too many spots along I-10 going down south. Going back, I don't really see too many spots outside of Buffalo National Reserve. So we've expanded our search. We're looking a little bit more north. And some spots look pretty good up there. So hopefully I'll have something maybe this weekend to share. All right, that's it. Fun. Good luck. Be safe. Drink water.